Give. Money management. The Quran and the Prophet about money matters. On interest. Allah will deprive usury of all blessing, but will give increase for deeds of charity. Quran 2, 276. Narrated Habir ibn Abdullah. Allah's messenger cursed the acceptor of interest and its payer, and one who records it, and the two witnesses. And he said, they are all equal. Muslim. Abu Hurairah related that the Prophet said, on the night of the Miraj I came upon a group of people whose bellies were like houses. They were full of snakes which could be seen from outside their bellies. I asked Gabriel who they were, and he told me that they were the people who had practiced riba interest. Ahmad ibn Maha. Abdullah ibn Hanjala related that the Prophet said, a dirham of riba interest knowingly taken by a man is a sin worse than committing zina fornication 36 times. Ahmad, Daraqutni. Zakah what you owe from your money. And they were not commanded except to worship Allah, being sincere to Him in religion, inclining to truth, and to establish prayer and to give zakah. And that is the correct religion. Quran 98, 5. Abbas related that a man asked the Prophet, tell me what should I do to be admitted to paradise, and he, the Prophet, answered, worship Allah associating nothing with Him, observe salat, pay zakah and strengthen the ties of kinship. Bukhari, Muslim. Inheritance and wills. And for all, we have made heirs to what is left by parents and relatives. And to those whom your oaths have bound to you give them their share. Indeed Allah is ever, over all things, a witness. Quran 4:33. Ibn Umar related that the Prophet said, it is the duty of a Muslim man who has something which is to be given as a bequest not to have it for 2 nights without having his will written regarding it. Bukhari, Muslim. Anas related that the Prophet said, if anyone deprives an heir of his inheritance, Allah will deprive him of his inheritance in paradise on the day of resurrection. Ibn Maha. How do you earn your money? Abu Hurairah narrated that the Prophet said, a time will come upon the people when one will not care how one gains one's money, legally or illegally. Bukhari. It is reported by Habir that the Prophet said, the flesh and body that is raised on unlawful sustenance shall not enter paradise. Hell is more deserving to the flesh that grows on one's body out of unlawful sustenance. Ahmad. Abu Sa'id related that the Prophet said, the truthful and trustworthy businessman will be in the company of prophets, saints and martyrs on the day of judgment. Darimi, Tirmidhi. Debts. It is narrated by Abu Musa Ash'ari that the Prophet said, after the major sins which must be avoided, the greatest sin is that someone dies in a state of debt and leaves behind no asset to pay it off. Darimi. Loans. Abu Qatada related that the Prophet said, if anyone would like Allah to save him from the hardships of the day of resurrection, he should give more time to his debtor who is short of money, or remit his debt altogether. Muslim. Strive with your wealth. The believers are only those who, when Allah is mentioned, their hearts become fearful, and when His verses are recited to them, it increases them in faith. And upon their Lord they rely, the ones who establish prayer, and from what we have provided them, they spend. Those are the believers, truly. For them are degrees of high position with their Lord and forgiveness and noble provision. Quran 8, 2-4. Asma related that the Prophet said, spend, and do not count, lest Allah counts against you. Do not withhold your money, lest Allah withholds from you. Spend what you can. Bukhari, Muslim. Abu Hurairah related that the Prophet said, the Lord's commandment for every one of His slaves is, spend on others, and I will spend on you. Bukhari, Muslim. The poor in your wealth. Have you seen the one who denies the recompense? For that is the one who drives away the orphan, and does not encourage the feeding of the poor. Quran 107, 1-3. Safwan ibn Salim related that the Prophet said, anyone who looks after and works for a widow and a poor person is like a warrior fighting for Allah's cause, or like a person who fasts during the day and prays all night. Bukhari. Hoarding. O you who have believed, indeed many of the scholars and the monks devour the wealth of people unjustly and avert them from the way of Allah. And those who hoard gold and silver and spend it not in the way of Allah, give them tidings of a painful punishment. Quran 9:34. Charity and punishment. It is narrated by Anas bin Malik that the Prophet said, verily charity appeases the wrath of Allah and eases the sufferings of death. Tirmidhi. Extravagance. And give the relative his right, and also the poor and the traveler, and do not spend wastefully. Indeed, the wasteful are brothers of the devils, and ever has Satan been to his Lord ungrateful. Quran 17:26-27. Amr ibn Shu'aib, On his father's authority said that his grandfather related that the Prophet said, "When you eat, drink, give charity and wear clothes, let no extravagance or pride be mixed up with what you do." Ibn Maha, Nasai. Being a miser. Abu Hurairah narrated that the Prophet said, "Every day 2 angels come down from heaven and one of them says, 'O Allah, compensate every person who spends in your cause,' and the other angel says, 'O Allah, destroy every miser.'" Bukhari. Abu Sa'id Khudri related that the Prophet said, "There are 2 habits which are never present together in a believer, miserliness and bad manners." Tirmidhi. Kabir reported that the Prophet said, "Avoid doing injustice to others, for on the day of judgment, it will turn into manifold darkness, and safeguard yourself against miserliness, for it ruined those who were before you. It incited them to murder and treating the unlawful as lawful." Muslim. Moderation in giving. And do not make your hand as chained to your neck or extend it completely and thereby become blamed and insolvent. Quran 17:29. And they are those who, when they spend, do so not excessively or sparingly but are ever, between that, justly moderate. Quran 25:67. Bribery. And do not consume one another's wealth unjustly or send it in bribery to the rulers in order that they might aid you to consume a portion of the wealth of the people in sin, while you know it is unlawful. Quran 2:188. Contentment. Abu Hurairah narrated that the Prophet said, "Wealth is not in having vast riches, it is in contentment." Bukhari, Muslim. Envy in wealth. Ibn Masud said, "I heard the Prophet saying, there is no envy except in 2, a person whom Allah has given wealth and he spends it in the right way, and a person whom Allah has given wisdom, i.e. religious knowledge, and he gives his decisions accordingly and teaches it to the others." Bukhari. Women and charity. Ibn Abbas narrated that the Prophet went out for the Eid prayer on the Eid day and offered a 2-rakat prayer. And he neither offered a prayer before it or after it. Then he went towards the women along with Bilal. He preached to them and ordered them to give in charity. And some, amongst the women, started giving their forearm bangles and earrings. Bukhari. The best charity. Abu Hurairah narrated that the Prophet said, "The best charity is that which is practiced by a wealthy person. And start giving first to your dependents." Bukhari. On begging. Narrated Hakim bin Hizam that the Prophet said, "The upper hand is better than the lower hand, i.e. he who gives in charity is better than him who takes it." One should start giving first to his dependents. And the best object of charity is that which is given by a wealthy person, from the money which is left after his expenses. And whoever abstains from asking others for some financial help, Allah will give him and save him from asking others, Allah will make him self-sufficient. Bukhari. Abu Hurairah related that the Prophet said, "He who makes a habit of asking from others reaches out for a brand of fire, so let him refrain or continue, as he desires." Muslim. Business conduct. Kabir related that the Prophet said, "May Allah show mercy to a man who is kind when he sells, when he buys, and when he makes a claim." Bukhari. Add new comment. Tags. Riba. Interest. Haram. Money. Wealth. Finance. Halal. Giving.